There is a beach town in Florida where entire waterfront homes sell for less than a used Honda Civic, and nobody can explain why more people are not living there. These are not landlocked retirement villages in the middle of nowhere. These are actual coastal communities with sand, waves, and ocean views where housing costs have collapsed so dramatically that you start wondering what everyone knows that you do not. Spoiler alert, usually it is hurricanes, but sometimes it is just that America forgot these places exist. Most people think affordable beach living died sometime around 1987, when the last boomer bought their third vacation property. But here is what nobody tells you. Scattered across American coastlines are actual beach towns, so economically depressed, so geographically inconvenient, or so climatically challenging that homes sell for what most people spend on a year of car payments. These are places where you can buy an actual house with ocean access for under $50,000. Not a timeshare, not a trailer that technically floats, an actual structure with walls and a deed. We are counting down 12 forgotten beach communities where homes cost less than most people spend on college textbooks over 4 years. Some have infrastructure that works most of the time. Others have beach access that requires acknowledging nature wants you gone. And one place has homes so cheap you could buy 3 properties and still have money left and over for hurricane shutters, which you will absolutely need because nature is not done with these towns. Think you know affordable beach towns? Cool. Let us see if you are ready for places where oceanfront living comes with prices from 1974, but flood maps from your nightmares. Your nearest hospital is an hour away, and your biggest concern becomes whether your house will still be there after the next storm season. Like this video, if you have ever realized the cheapest beach homes in America come with meteorological consequences and that affordable coastal living always involves interesting trade-offs involving water that enters your home uninvited. Subscribe right now because one day you will want to escape to somewhere with ocean views and a mortgage payment lower than your phone bill. And this channel is basically your guide to America's cheapest coastal real estate with actual research instead of real estate fantasy listings. Let us break it down. Number 12, Port St. Joe, Florida. Port St. Joe will sell you a beach home for under $50,000. And the reason is simple. Hurricanes have beaten this town so consistently that insurance companies flinch when you mention the zip code. Welcome to Florida's Forgotten Coast, where the beaches are beautiful and the economic recovery from the 2008 collapse never quite happened. Port St. Joe sits along Florida's panhandle with about 3,500 permanent residents. This place had big plans once. Developers dreamed of another Destin. Then the housing market imploded, hurricanes hit repeatedly, and those dreams became abandoned lots and deeply discounted homes. Here is what Port St. Joe costs. Homes under $50,000 exist, usually older structures needing work or located slightly inland. Waterfront properties run higher, but you can find homes under $100,000 with water views, which is insane for coastal Florida. Property taxes are low because property values crashed and stayed down. The cost of living is about 8% below the national average. The job market is limited: tourism, fishing, and not much else. Most people work remotely or are retired. The catch is hurricanes. Michael hit in 2018 and absolutely devastated the area. Homes were destroyed, infrastructure took years to rebuild, and everyone knows another storm is coming eventually. Insurance reflects that reality. If you can even get coverage, it will cost thousands annually. A person who bought there described it as the cheapest beach living they found. But every hurricane season is existential dread. They paid $42,000 cash for a home 10 minutes from the beach. Their mortgage is zero, but their insurance is $4,000 a year, and they spend weeks every summer watching weather patterns obsessively while reinforcing shutters and planning evacuations they hope they will never need. Picture yourself in a beach cottage that costs less than most cars. You are 10 minutes from Gulf beaches. Your property taxes are $300 annually. Then hurricane season starts, and you are boarding windows while calculating if cheap housing is worth the constant low-level terror of watching tropical systems form off Africa, knowing any one of them could erase your investment and possibly you if you stay too long. Number 11, Prichard, Alabama. Prichard is not technically on the beach, but it is 20 minutes from Mobile Bay, with water access and homes that sell for under $30,000, which is so cheap you wonder if the properties are haunted or built on something toxic. Welcome to one of Alabama's most economically distressed cities, where population decline and decades of disinvestment created a housing market that defies logic. Prichard sits just outside Mobile with about 19,000 residents, down from over 40,000 in the 1970s. This was a thriving industrial town once. Then industries left, jobs disappeared, and the population followed, leaving behind homes nobody wanted and prices that collapsed. Here is the Prichard situation. Homes under $30,000 are common, often needing cosmetic work but structurally sound. Some properties sell for under $20,000 at auction. Property taxes are negligible, often under $500 annually. The cost of living is about 25% below the national average. The job market is weak locally, stronger in nearby Mobile. Crime rates are high, among the highest in Alabama, which explains partly why housing is cheap. The appeal is obvious. You can own a home outright for less than a decent used car and be near coastal access. The challenges are equally obvious. Economic opportunity is limited, crime is a real concern, and the community struggles with services and infrastructure because the tax base collapsed along with the population. Someone who bought in Prichard said they paid $18,000 cash for a 3-bedroom home 15 minutes from water access. Their housing costs are almost zero, but they also installed serious security systems, and they drive to Mobile for most services because local options are limited. They are gambling that gentrification or regional growth will eventually raise values, but for now, they are living cheaply in a town most people are trying to leave. Picture yourself in a home that cost $18,000. You own it outright. You are 20 minutes from Mobile Bay beaches. Your property taxes are $300 a year. Then you realize the nearest grocery store is a dollar store. Your mail delivery is unreliable, and you are checking security cameras obsessively because property crime is common enough that everyone you meet has stories. Sometimes cheap comes with trade-offs measured in daily stress. Number 10, Freeport, Texas. Freeport will sell you a beach home for under $50,000, and the reason involves a combination of industrial sprawl, hurricane risk, and a vibe that screams more petrochemical refinery than tourist paradise. Freeport sits on the Texas Gulf Coast about an hour south of Houston, with around 11,000 residents. This town exists because of the port of Freeport and the chemical plants surrounding it. The beaches are real. The access is easy. but the scenery includes industrial infrastructure that makes you constantly aware you are living in a working port town. Here is what Freeport costs. Homes under $50,000 exist, often older properties within a few miles of beach access. Some homes go for $30,000 to $40,000 if they need work. Property taxes are moderate for Texas. The cost of living is about 15% below the national average. The job market is decent locally due to port and industry work. Hurricane risk is significant. Harvey caused major flooding in 2017. The appeal is cheap Gulf Coast access with actual employment options nearby. The downside is the industrial aesthetic and storm vulnerability. A person who lives there said Freeport is the cheapest Gulf access they found with actual jobs available. They paid $45,000 for a home 10 minutes from the beach. But they also see refineries from their porch and spend hurricane season with evacuation bags packed and ready because flooding happens often enough that everyone has a plan and a backup plan. Picture yourself in a Texas beach home that cost $40,000. You are biking to the beach in minutes. Your mortgage is paid off. Then you look left and see a massive refinery complex, and you wonder if cheap beach living is worth constantly smelling vaguely like petrochemicals and hoping nothing explodes, which it probably will not, but refineries do have incidents, and you are very close to several. Number 9, Gulfport, Mississippi. Gulfport offers sub-$50,000 homes near the Gulf Coast, and the reason is Hurricane Katrina beat this city so hard in 2005 that property values still have not fully recovered nearly 20 years later. Gulfport sits on the Mississippi Gulf Coast with about 72,000 residents. This was a growing city before Katrina. Then the storm hit with catastrophic storm surge that destroyed entire neighborhoods. The city rebuilt, but the psychological and economic scars remain, and housing prices reflect that traumatic history. Here is the Gulfport breakdown. Homes under $50,000 exist in older neighborhoods needing updates. Beachfront is more expensive, but Gulf access is minutes away from cheap properties. Property taxes are low. The cost of living is about 13% below the national average. The job market includes casinos, military from nearby bases, and service industries. Hurricane risk is extreme, as Katrina proved. The appeal is cheap Gulf Coast living in a city with actual amenities and job options. The reality is, you are buying into a place that experienced catastrophic destruction within recent memory, and everyone knows it will happen again eventually. Someone who moved post-Katrina said they bought a home for $38,000 15 minutes from beaches. The city rebuilt well. Casino jobs are plentiful, but every hurricane season brings back collective trauma. People evacuate at the slightest threat. Flood insurance is mandatory and expensive. Living cheaply means accepting that your home sits in a zone nature has already demonstrated it can erase. Picture yourself in a Mississippi home that costs $35,000. You are driving to beaches in minutes. Casinos offer entertainment and jobs. Your cost of living is incredibly low. Then hurricane season starts, and you notice how seriously everyone takes even minor storms, how quickly people board up and leave town, and you realize cheap housing exists partly because everyone here knows nature can take everything without warning. Number 8, Bacliff, Texas. Bacliff is a small unincorporated community on Galveston Bay where homes sell for under $40,000. And the reason is, it is basically the forgotten sibling of Galveston, that nobody remembers exists. Bacliff sits on the mainland side of Galveston Bay with about 10,000 residents. You can access bay beaches and fishing easily. You are close enough to Houston for employment. And housing is shockingly cheap because Bacliff never developed into anything notable. Here is what Bacliff costs. Homes under $40,000 are common, often older properties on large lots. Waterfront property runs higher, but non-waterfront with bay access nearby is deeply discounted. Property taxes are lower without city taxes. The cost of living is about 12% below the national average. The job market requires commuting to nearby cities, usually Houston or Galveston. Hurricane risk is significant since you are on the bay. The catch is limited services. No city government means no city utilities in many areas. Many homes use septic systems. Roads are county maintained and can be rough. This is coastal living with a rural infrastructure reality. Someone living there said they bought for $32,000 with bay access a 5-minute drive away. Their housing costs almost nothing, but they also manage their own septic, their road floods regularly, and county services are minimal. They are paying for coastal access with a lack of urban infrastructure that requires self-sufficiency. Picture a Texas home on a large lot that costs $30,000. Bay beaches are 5 minutes away. Your property taxes are under $1,000 annually. Then your septic backs up and you realize there is no city to call. You are hiring someone privately. Your road washes out in heavy rain, and county repair takes weeks because you are low priority. Sometimes cheap means you handle everything yourself. Number 7, Port Arthur, Texas. Port Arthur will sell you a home for under $30,000 near Gulf access. And the reason is this city has been economically struggling for decades while sitting in the direct path of hurricanes. Port Arthur sits on the Texas coast near Louisiana with about 54,000 residents, down from over 66,000 in 1980. This is an oil refinery town where the economy rises and falls with petrochemical industry cycles. When times are good, the city does okay. When times are bad, population declines and homes sit empty. Here is the Port Arthur reality. Homes under $30,000 are widely available in older neighborhoods. Some properties sell for under $20,000 needing work. Property taxes are low due to low valuations. The cost of living is about 20% below the national average. The job market depends heavily on refineries and port activity. Hurricane risk is extreme. Harvey caused catastrophic flooding in 2017. The appeal is incredibly cheap home ownership near coastal waters. The challenges are economic volatility, high crime rates, and environmental concerns living near heavy industry. A person who bought there paid $24,000 for a house 20 minutes from Gulf waters. Their housing costs are almost non-existent, but they also evacuate for every hurricane threat. Their air quality some days is noticeably industrial, and the local economy is weak enough that property values might never significantly increase. Picture a home you bought for $22,000. Gulf fishing is 30 minutes away. Your mortgage does not exist. Then you smell refineries daily, read reports about air quality and cancer clusters, and evacuate for the third time in 5 years as another hurricane approaches, wondering if cheap housing is worth the cumulative health and stress costs. Number 6, Moss Point, Mississippi. Moss Point offers sub-$50,000 homes near Gulf waters, and the reason involves economic decline, industrial closures, and being overshadowed by by nearby cities. Moss Point sits on Mississippi's Gulf Coast near the Alabama border with about 13,000 residents, down from historical peaks. This was a shipbuilding and industrial town. When industries closed or downsized, the economy struggled, population declined, and housing prices dropped accordingly. Here is the Moss Point breakdown. Homes under $40,000 are common. Properties under $30,000 exist, needing updates. Property taxes are very low. The cost of living is about 18% below the national average. The job market is limited locally, better in nearby Pascagoula. Crime rates are above average. Hurricane risk is significant, as Katrina demonstrated. The appeal is cheap Gulf Coast living in a small town setting. The reality is limited economic opportunity and community challenges from decades of decline. Someone who lives there said they bought for $34,000 10 minutes from Gulf waters. Their cost of living is incredibly low, but job options required commuting, local services are limited, and the town feels economically depressed, which affects everything from retail options to community vitality. Picture a Mississippi home that costs $30,000. Fishing and Gulf waters are 15 minutes away. Your expenses are minimal. Then you drive through downtown and see mostly closed storefronts. You realize entertainment options are nearly zero, and you wonder if saving money is worth living somewhere that feels economically stuck in decline. Number 5, Aransas Pass, Texas. Aransas Pass will sell you coastal homes for under $50,000, and the reason is it sits right next to Corpus Christi and Port Aransas, but never became the tourist destination those cities did. Aransas Pass occupies Texas coast waterfront with about 8,000 residents. This is a working fishing community with a shrimping fleet, modest tourism, and a vibe that is more blue-collar than resort. Here is what Aransas Pass costs. Homes under $50,000 exist, especially older properties inland from the waterfront. Some homes sell for $35,000 to $45,000. Property taxes are moderate. The cost of living is about 10% below the national average. The job market includes fishing industry, some tourism, and service jobs. Hurricane risk is real, as the coast regularly faces storms. The appeal is affordable Texas coast living in a community with actual maritime culture. The downside is limited economic growth and infrastructure that reflects a working town, not a resort. A resident said they paid $43,000 for a home 10 minutes from water access. The fishing community is authentic, costs are low, but the town has limited amenities. The nearest hospital is in Corpus Christi, and hurricane evacuations are regular occurrences that everyone plans for. Picture a Texas home that cost $40,000. You are biking to the marina. Fresh shrimp is everywhere. Your living costs are low. Then you realize entertainment is limited. Healthcare requires driving 30 minutes. And every few years you are evacuating ahead of a hurricane, wondering if your cheap home will still be standing when you return. Number 4, Welaka, Florida. Welaka is not on the ocean, but it sits on the St. Johns River with water access and homes under $40,000, close enough to the Atlantic that beach trips are manageable. Welaka is a tiny town in northeast Florida with under 700 residents. This is old Florida, river access, fishing culture, and a pace of life that makes you question whether anyone ever hurries. Here is the Welaka situation. Homes under $40,000 are common. Riverfront properties can be found under $60,000. Property taxes are low. The cost of living is about 15% below the national average. The job market is almost non-existent locally. Most people commute or work remotely. The Atlantic Ocean is about an hour away. Medical services require travel to larger towns. The appeal is cheap waterfront Florida living in a quiet community. The challenge is isolation and limited services that require significant self-sufficiency. Someone who moved there said they bought riverfront for $52,000, which would cost millions elsewhere. Their life is quiet and cheap, but they drive 40 minutes for groceries, an hour for medical care, and they learned quickly that small-town Florida means everyone knows your business immediately. Picture a Florida riverfront home that cost $45,000. You are kayaking from your property. Nature surrounds you. Costs are almost nothing. Then you need a prescription filled and realize the nearest pharmacy is 35 minutes away, and you forgot to buy something at the store, which means another hour round trip because there is no quick option. Number 3, East Point, Florida. East Point sits on Florida's forgotten coast with homes under $50,000, water access, and an economy based almost entirely on oysters, which disappeared for years after a disaster. East Point is a small community near Apalachicola with about 2,500 residents. This place is famous for oysters. The economy depended on oyster harvesting for generations. Then the oyster population collapsed due to environmental factors and mismanagement, devastating the local economy. Here is what East Point costs. Homes under $50,000 exist, especially properties needing work. Some homes sell in the $30,000 to $40,000 range. Property taxes are low. The cost of living is below the national average. The job market is recovering but limited. Water access is easy with bay beaches nearby. Hurricane risk is significant. The appeal is cheap. Coastal Florida, living in a community with authentic maritime culture. The challenge is economic uncertainty and infrastructure that reflects a town still recovering. A person who bought there paid $38,000 for a home with water views. The area is beautiful. The community is tight-knit, but they also lived through years when work was scarce, and they watched neighbors leave as the oyster industry collapsed. Recovery feels fragile. Picture a Florida coastal home that costs $35,000. Water is visible from your porch. The community is authentic. Then you talk to neighbors who lost everything when oysters disappeared, who waited years for recovery, who still worry the fishery will never return to what it was. Sometimes cheap housing exists because entire communities are rebuilding from collapse. Number 2, Lake Charles, Louisiana. Lake Charles is not on the Gulf, but very close with water access and homes under $40,000 because back-to-back hurricanes in 2020 destroyed large sections of the city that still have not fully recovered. Lake Charles sits in southwest Louisiana near the Gulf with about 78,000 residents. This was a growing city with casino development and industry. Then Hurricane Laura hit in 2020 as a Category 4, followed weeks later by Hurricane Delta. The combined damage was catastrophic. Here is the Lake Charles reality. Homes under $40,000 exist, many storm damaged but repairable. Some properties sell under $30,000. Property taxes are low. The cost of living is about 10% below the national average. The job market includes casinos and petrochemical industry. Hurricane risk is extreme, as recent history proved. Insurance is expensive and difficult to obtain. The appeal is cheap. Louisiana living near Gulf access in a city with jobs. The reality is you are buying into a place still recovering from disaster, with certain knowledge more storms will come. Someone who bought post-storm paid $28,000 for a home needing roof repair and interior work. They invested another $20,000 in repairs. Their total cost is under $50,000 for a home that was worth over $100,000 before the storms. But they also know another Laura-level storm could destroy everything, and insurance costs eat into any savings. Picture a Louisiana home you bought for $25,000. You spent $20,000 repairing it. You are near lakes and Gulf waters. Your total investment is $45,000. Then you drive through neighborhoods still showing storm damage years later, see people still fighting insurance companies, and realize you bought into a city nature recently devastated and will eventually hit again. Number 1, Cameron Parish, Louisiana. Cameron Parish takes the top spot as the cheapest coastal area with homes sometimes under $20,000 because hurricanes have destroyed this place so many times that living here is essentially gambling against meteorology. Cameron Parish sits on Louisiana's Gulf Coast with fewer than 7,000 residents spread across a large, mostly marsh area. This is as vulnerable to hurricanes as land can be. Low elevation, direct Gulf exposure, and a history of catastrophic storms. Here is the Cameron Parish situation. Homes under $30,000 exist. Some properties sell for $15,000 to $20,000. Land is even cheaper. Property taxes are low. The cost of living is below average. The job market includes oil and gas industry and fishing. Hurricane risk is not a risk, but a certainty. Insurance is extremely expensive if you can get it. The appeal is cheap, Gulf Coast access with fishing and industry jobs. The reality is you are buying in one of the most hurricane vulnerable places in America, where total loss is not a question of if, but when. A person who lives there said they bought land for $12,000 and put a manufactured home on it for another $30,000. Their total investment is $42,000 for Gulf-adjacent property. But they also evacuate multiple times per year. They lost everything in previous storms. They know they will lose it again eventually. They rebuild anyway because this is home. And they accept the trade-off of cheap living against guaranteed disaster. If you made it this far, you already understand the real secret. Cheap beach living is not a bargain. It is a trade. It is buying ocean access with risk, distance, and stress baked into the deed. So here is the move. Pick the kind of consequence you can actually live with. Hurricanes, crime, isolation, industry, because every one of these towns is affordable for a reason, and pretending that reason does not matter is how people end up broke, stranded, or rebuilding from scratch.